Hello, Lydia. Thank you so much for your patience. When I sent you that email saying that things could be a bit of a delay, and you came back with that lovely reply. That was so nice. So thank you for that. Thank you also for all of your comments you leave on my videos and your enthusiasm for my material. Thank you. That's very lovely for me as well. I have read through your information, I don't know, maybe like 6 times now. And so I'm quite familiar with everything that you've put here. I also reviewed the answers to those questions, those clarifications. So thank you for that too. And I take note that you were saying you would like to add to your first question in the third dream, you're shown as a man laughing and chatting with Jesus and Mary. Okay, so let's now go to your questions. Let's just reiterate your questions here. So you've got 10 questions. It's probably unlikely we'll get to all of those, but we'll get to several of them. So, number 1, what is my connection to Jesus? He has visited me in my dreams 3 times, twice with Mary Magdalene. During the visits with Jesus and Mary, we're all wearing the clothing that people wore 2,000 years ago. Plus, in the third dream, you're a man. Number 2, what is my connection to Rome? I've experienced profound deja vu during my visits there. 3, in a dream, I experienced a massive wave of light that flooded Earth and a new Earth appears. I gather this has to do with the upcoming ascension. Why was I shown this? Do I have some role to play in this event? 4, with the help of Course in Miracles, I've cleared much baggage. What baggage blockages continue to undermine my progress in seeking spiritual upliftment? And what are the best steps to clear them? What's the status, number 5, what's the status of my chakras? Which in particular need clearing? 6, I've had many vivid dreams where I fly, teleport, have the ability to control energy, be involved in rescue missions, and even attended lessons on how to manipulate energy to feed people. Have I watched too much Star Trek type entertainment? It's funny you say that, because I've had a lot of very similar dreams. I've been having dreams where I'm telekinetic, or I can move things with my mind, since I was like primary school, and I still have them. Okay, so you're asking, why do you have those dreams? Number 7, why do I continue to struggle with meditation? What do I need to overcome or clear? 8, why do I continue to battle with my weight? 9, what could I be doing to better prepare for ascension? 10, what do your guides want to tell me on a topic I haven't asked, but they believe is important for me to know? Okay. Right, so there's a lot of questions there. Usually people come at me with 3 to 5. You've got 10. So, I'm sure you're probably anticipating that we won't get to all of them, but we'll definitely get to several of them. And you know, it just makes it easier for the information to flow when you sort of have this sort of broad range of inquiry. And probably most likely there is also going to be something in there which you haven't asked, which you kind of indirectly asked in your final question. Okay. Okay. Right, Lydia, let's see. Let's see what we have here for you. Greetings, Lydia, and thank you for coming to us with these many questions to assist you on your journey into the light. And we begin with this statement because you are now moving more and more into alignment with path to expansion, with discovering what you are. And it is our delight to be of assistance in this greater journey that you are now beginning to become aware of to a degree that it is becoming a profound and central part of your life. So with that start in mind, we would like to begin this session from your question 10, which was, is there something which you have not specifically asked which is relevant? And there is something which we think is important. So this is where we are going to begin. And this important element is in regard to your daughter. So we would just like to provide some clarity on how we see the energetics of what has occurred and also what the consequences for the future would be if this was to continue to be as it is, to be unaddressed. So, we would like to say, initially, let's form a basis for our analysis of this dynamic that you share with your daughter. Because of the environment that you were raised in, where you had a father that had his struggles with identity and mental stability, and this manifested in inappropriate behavior. So where he tended to be violent and abusive, and the strain that this put on your family and then causing the split when you were still young between your parents. Then also when this is compounded by the fact that your mother speaks English as a second language and so is incapable of communicating to a depth with you who doesn't speak proficiently her language, and so the struggles that this creates. This means that the love language which you have adopted as your way of being, a way of expressing love, is that you demonstrate your love by doing. This is your love language. And this is why during the childhood of your children, you were very focused on your work, wishing to provide the functional parenting. So, this was not so much because you were deficient, but really that this is the love language which you spoke. You wish to demonstrate to your children their importance to you and your love for them by being a very reliable and capable provider. However, this is the love language which is really now becoming less and less part of the human paradigm, because humanity is moving into more of a connected state where there is the formation increasingly of the larger context, which is the humanity being. And the formation of the humanity being means there is a coming together and there is a bonding on an energetic level of love. And the way that this is demonstrative, more so than the past, is the love language of affection, the love language of literal, visceral, tangible demonstration of love through words, through touch, through embracing, and so on. And as your children are from a younger generation than you, then just by default, they have come into this life experience with an energetic set point which is more in that realm than it was for you. And this is really just a consequence of the evolution of the humanity being. And each iteration of this larger being is transitioning deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into this paradigm. And so when humanity has crossed the threshold into the fourth density state, then love will be very demonstratively shared. So, humans will be embracing each other, embracing strangers, giving very direct and unmistakable expressions of love to each other. So this is the same as saying that your children have come into the world speaking a love language which is more of that type than you did. And you speak that language more of a type than your parents did, and so on and so on and so on through the generations. In a general way. Because of course, there are always those who are ahead or who are different, who are an exception to the rule. But in a general principle, when we observe the humanity being across generations, and we look for a single tendency, this is the single tendency in terms of love. That love has become more about demonstration and tangibility, visceral expression of love, and less about the doing, although the doing is still and will always be a part of the expression of love. So, your daughter was in this zone even more so than your son. So, your son was able to appreciate that your consistent providing, your consistent doing, your consistent hard work was an expression of love. However, for your daughter, it was received as a form of neglect or a form of uncaring, an unwillingness to be there in her life and to be what she considered to be the ideal mother. And so, she was in a way deaf to your love language. And in a way, you were also deaf to hers. You did not realize that her love language was as different to yours. You did not realize that she was unable to interpret your hard work, your consistent effort to fulfill the responsibilities of your job so that you could be the reliable provider was a form of love. Now, the reason that we are choosing to start here is because if you can come to a place of healing in this dynamic, then it is going to be very contributory to the rest of your life in terms of how well you can move into the place that you would like to be, become the person and the being that you have a vision of for yourself. And this is because if you are unable to come to some type of resolution, some type of healing, some type of new energetic dynamic with your daughter now or in the near future, then this is something that is going to weigh on you. And the way that it weighs on you will bring you down in vibration. It will limit your ability to grow and express and transform. So, it is particularly important now because as your grandchild matures and begins to form ideas and impressions of the world, if your daughter still has this idea about who you are and what type of a mother you were, then this is going to become the narrative to which she teaches her child, her children, about her mother, their grandmother. And this will, in a way, set you in stone, meaning that even if you are to transform, the legend of who you are will have already been cast. And it will be difficult for you to break out of that. And so even though you are the transformed being, when you are in some type of exchange or interaction with your daughter, with her partner, with her children, you will feel that you are not being seen, you are not being appreciated for who you are now rather than who you were in the past. So, we feel this is something which is very worthwhile for you to address now. And the way that we suggest that you address this is to be very forthright and be extremely honest in your communication with your daughter. And although she may not be receptive, and it may take some time before any impact can be noticed, it is important that a seed is planted and that you continue to nurture that seed, you continue to water that seed. Because she feels like she was not particularly noticed, that she was not particularly nurtured in a very similar way to how you felt during your childhood. But for her, it is even more so because of this difference in love language. So, we suggest in your very honest discussion with her, you begin by acknowledging that you did not understand how to be a mother in a more wholesome, nurturing, holistic way, which included attending to her emotional needs and understanding her at an emotional level. And part of the reason that you were this way is because it was artifact of your own childhood. You did not have a relationship with your mother where you felt that she understood you on a very deep and emotional level. And because you did not have that, you did not have an appreciation that that is even something which can be, that what that even feels like. And so this is what made it difficult for you to even be aware that this was a deficit in your parenting style. And it is now that you are becoming more mature and you are seeing the impact and what it has done to your relationship, and you are on your own path to awakening, moving into the light, that you're beginning to realize that this was something which you didn't get as right as you would like. And so you were miscalibrated and you tried to love your child in a way which was difficult to be understood. And therefore, much of the intent of the love, which you demonstrated through your doing, was completely missed. If you can come to some point where there is an initiation of the healing, and it has come from you, so it is your impetus, it is your inertia that has begun the healing process, then this will be meaningfully received by your daughter. And this is going to change the narrative about who you are. And over the coming years, as more children arrive, then you will be cast in a new mold. And this will give you a greater connection with your daughter and also, most importantly, with your grandchildren. Because if you are locked out of the family paradigm because of who you were in the past, this will pain you to a degree where it is going to be a limitation on your growth into the being which you are becoming. So, address it now. Let us next proceed to your very first question about your connection to Jesus and why you have had 3 dreams where you are speaking with Jesus. 2 of those, Mary was present, and in the 3rd of those dreams, you were actually a man. As you awaken, Lydia, you are becoming more aligned with the expanded aspects of self. And this is the way for all humanity. As humanity awakens, this is what it is. It is awakening to your true nature. And this is awakening to the expanded definitions of self. And the first increment of expanded definition of self is to be aware that you are a component of the group being which all humanity forms, the special being, the humanity being. And the energy, the consciousness of this larger being was embodied by the Jesus Christ. It is the Christ consciousness. So, as you continue this awakening, even before there is this conceptual understanding that you are a aspect of a larger group being, this expanded identity, there is still a shift into that energetic state. And so this is why, as you expand energetically and become more and more embodied by the same energy which embodied the Christ, then you are beginning to form a resonance with Jesus Christ, with the entity that was the Jesus Christ. There is literally a resonance and a harmony. And so, this is why you will begin to find you are drawn to materials and also to the Christ himself. It is not a mistake or a coincidence that you've found the Course in Miracles. The Course in Miracles is literally a harmonizing device. When one goes through the Course of Miracles and does so earnestly and is able to capture and is able to capture and then incorporate the vibratory tone of the Course in Miracles, then they are literally becoming more connected to and integrated into the humanity being. And therefore, this is the same as saying, becoming more resonant with the Christ consciousness. And also, it is an extension of this that you have found you are drawn to channels such as the one you see in front of you now and the message that is coming through, because it is a very similar energy. And the Tina Spalding is literally channeling Jesus when discussing the Course of Miracles. And this is all occurring because there is such a close overlap. Jesus is drawn to channel on the Course of Miracles because the energetic resonance is so closely matched. It makes absolute harmonic sense to the Christ that he is involved with the conveyance of that message. And as you become deeper immersed into the energetic resonance of the Course in Miracles, and you become more aligned with the Christ consciousness, adoring of the Christ consciousness, inviting the Christ consciousness, then this resonance is going to bring you into direct communication with the Christ consciousness, with the Jesus Christ. And because you are a culturally Christian, then the context of this communication, of these moments that you share with the Christ, will be in the context which you understand. And this is why that you, in your experiences, when you are in direct communication with the Christ consciousness, with Jesus Christ, that the context in which you find yourself in is the Christian context. It is the context of which Jesus Christ was known to exist. So, it is not an artifact of the mind, it is not just your imagination. In these dreams, you are literally spending time with Jesus Christ. And it is all occurring within the context of your cultural understanding. So, Jesus Christ is literally here now and is saying that you do not need to wait for dreams to have communication with Him. And He encourages you to have direct communication in your wakeful state. You can have a pleasant exchange. You can ask questions. You can share philosophy with Jesus Christ at any time you want. And He is lovingly willing to be available for you at any time that you desire, because He sees you as His child in a sense, meaning that you are part of the expanded being, the energy of the humanity being which resides within Him. So, in a certain perspective, you are part of Him. You live within the heart of Jesus Christ. And therefore, He expresses nothing but love for you, because you literally reside within the love of the Christ. In the third dream you had, where you were a man, this is because you have had a relationship with Jesus Christ in past lifetimes. This is not to say that you were literally, physically in the presence of Jesus Christ during the period of His own incarnation, but rather in previous incarnations of your own, where you were a man, you had a close connection with the Christ. And what is occurring now in this current lifetime is a reawakening of this relationship that you had in the past. And so you were very frequently and with a great degree of familiarity having conversations with Jesus Christ, feeling in the presence of Jesus Christ, asking Jesus Christ for assistance, for guidance. And as Jesus Christ always does, in regard to all that call upon Him, He was there with you, and He was providing to you all that you asked. And this now is becoming an awakened memory in your current incarnation. And the reason this memory is awakening is because your higher self aspect and also the Christ Himself is using this memory to awaken you to what is possible, to stir up the memory that there has been times in your past incarnations where you were much more closely harmonic with the Christ than you are now. This is not to say that there is some lack or there is some deficiency or there's something at fault now, but rather to shine as a beacon, as a signpost, that you can go deeper into your relationship with the Jesus Christ. And going deeper into the relationship with the Jesus Christ is literally going deeper into your relationship with the expanded being that you are, becoming more embodied and more self-identified as this larger being of which you are a very important aspect. So, moving on to this question about your connection to Rome. It is no coincidence that this question immediately precedes this question you had about your connection with Jesus Christ, and also your compulsion to send an extra message and saying, can this extra detail, where in the third dream I was a man, was a compulsion because there is connection. In this past life that we speak of, where you felt that you had a direct connection with the Jesus Christ, was literally a life lived in ancient Rome. And you were born after the passing of the Jesus Christ. However, this was during a period where the revelations of the Christ were still very much deeply rooted in the human consciousness. The impact that Christ had at that stage was still very visceral, because it was somebody that had literally been alive and spread their gospel in very near history. So it was as relevant and as recent as the way that your generation would think of and remember the concept of the Vietnam War. It is something which happened at some time, which was in the past, at least part of it, or even World War II, something that happened which was very profound in the history of recent humanity. It is like an iconic event, even though it occurred before your current incarnation. There is still much information about it. There are still many people speaking of it. And even there are some alive who were part of it. It was during this life period, this incarnation, that you first stepped deeply into your connection with the Jesus Christ. Because the vibration of the Jesus Christ still was resonating very strongly within humanity in that region of the world at that time. And this memory, this harmonic coming to you now, again, is to remind you, to awaken you to this historical aspect, which is not historical from the perspective of how time is really unfolding. So there is only one single moment. And that single moment has an infinite number of perspectives. But it is the single moment. And so these different perspectives could be considered different times in history. But it is still just a different perspective of the single moment. This is the same as saying that this lifetime that you lived, where you were in ancient Rome and you had a very close relationship with the resonant harmonic of the Christ consciousness, is occurring now. And what you are receiving, what you're picking up on, is the energetic state, the harmonic, the connection, which is occurring now from that perspective of the only moment. So it can be utilized in recollection of that life, which is being lived concurrently, because this is really the way that time works. So it is being lived concurrently. So the energetic resonance you feel with the Christ consciousness in this other lifetime, which is occurring now, can be harmonized with, which will give you an acceleration, which will amplify and enhance your connection with the Christ consciousness now. And then this increase in this amplification of your connection with the Christ consciousness is a saturation of love. It is an explosion, an overflowing of your own love as you tap into the love of the larger being, and you allow that to become part of your expression. So now you are drawing on the love of the larger being, of the Christ consciousness, which embodied that larger being. And with this new expression of love, this new power in a type, a superpower of love, this can be utilized to be a great tool of healing and reconciliation with your daughter, so that you can become an important part of the lives of your grandchildren. So, work on this connection. Become very attuned with the resonance of the Christ consciousness, and so that you can become an embodiment yourself. Because the Christ consciousness was an embodiment of the energy and the love of the expanded being. But this is not because the Jesus Christ was given some special designation, but rather having descended from a higher dimensional state. The Christ consciousness came with an intact memory, and so was able to embody what is the potential within all humans, including you. So, there will be a time in the future where you will have an incarnation where you literally are your version of the Christ consciousness. You will beacon with a love and an energy and an intensity, which is exactly and even more so than was done by the Jesus Christ. And it will be more so because you will be in a matrix, in a density state where there is just greater capacity, greater potential for expression of this way of being, which wasn't available to the Jesus Christ in the third density experience. So, this now connects us to your question about which chakras need to be clearing. It is always impressive to us the way that the questions which are brought to us connect in the way they do, and yours in particular. As you can see, as we're going from question to question, there is this natural, very organic segue into the next question. And that is because you have downloaded your questions from the higher self aspect, because in contemplation of making the connection with us, you are literally more computing from your own higher self aspect. Because this is the resonance that you share with us, because we are a high density being and you are a high density being in the higher self aspect. And so when you form a resonance with us, which you have through your watching of our material and also your contemplation of us, then this has in a way given you an access point to a higher state of wisdom. And from there you have downloaded the questions which you have provided to us. So this segue about the new capacity of love which you will develop through your increased harmonization with the Christ consciousness, so that you will be able to pour greater love, and not just greater love, but greater insight, clarity and understanding into your relationships, so that it is not just about blind loving, so you blindly love all over your daughter. That is not what we're saying, because love is intelligence. And so when you increase your capacity for love, which can be done through enhancing your connection with the Christ consciousness, which can ride on the back of this memory of incarnation where you have done this before, then you will be able to perceive the dynamics that you share with your daughter with a new degree of clarity and specificity. And so you will be able to calibrate who you are being in second to second with a greater degree of accuracy, and this is the same as saying you will become much more profoundly empathic. And so your daughter will no longer feel like she's glossed over, like you just don't get it. Like there's all forms of nuance within her which you have no appreciation of, which was the truth. There was a time when she had nuance and she had different expressions and she had slightly altered behaviours, which for her was a very obvious demonstration of her state of beingness. And yet, from her perspective, you just did not get it. You just did not see it. You were blind to her smaller palpitations, smaller disturbances, smaller unsettlements. And so she felt you were not there for her because you just could not see her. You could not detect what was going on within her. But this is the profound power that comes from becoming the empathic being, because the love intelligence will give you a sensitivity to these smaller perturbations. If you are going to reach this level of empathic ability, and also if you're going to continue to expand in your beingness, then you must be able to have a very open heart. And this question about which chakras need to be cleared, which need to be addressed, we would say it is your heart chakra. Your heart chakra is squeezed, it is closed down to a degree, because when you were a child and you were in an environment which wasn't really the type of nurturing that you would like to have experienced, then one of the ways that a child will cope is to literally shut down their heart chakra. And by shutting down their heart chakra, then there needs to be less love coming into it for it to feel complete and whole. Because if you have a very open heart as a child, and yet you're in an environment with parents that do not fill you up with love, do not nourish that openness of heart satisfactorily, then you are going to be an unhappy child. Then you're going to be a child that feels like it is not appreciated, that is not loved. And the remedy for this is to shut down your heart, is to tighten the heart chakra so that its requirement for love pouring into it from the external, particularly from the parents, is diminished. But this may serve to alleviate the pain when you're young. But when you become an adult, it becomes a source of dysfunction. And in your own life, it has been a source of dysfunction in the relationship that you have with your daughter. And now there is a repetition of this pattern, because your daughter came into this life because of her generational entry, where it is a greater state of wakefulness for humanity. It is a deeper penetration into the light. And she came in with a heart chakra, which is in a greater state of openness. And yet she did not feel that she was filled with the love that was adequate for her to feel, for her to be complete and bountiful within herself. And so she responded by shutting down her heart chakra, and shutting it down particularly in regard to her relationship with you. So, if you can open your heart chakra and you can rekindle your relationship with your daughter, then this is going to go a long way to helping her also open her heart chakra. There is a greater possibility that she is going to understand this as she evolves as a mother and has more children, because just from the generational entry point, into the humanity being. She is going to have, by default, a greater access to this wisdom. Yet, it can be even more enhanced if she is able to feel some resonance from her mother in that regard. So, to open your heart chakra, this is what we recommend. Go into nature and take photos of all those that are important to you. And while in nature, feel a connection with the earth, also known as nature. So have a great appreciation for nature. Feel a love and a security in being in nature. Really love nature. And then, while you're in this state of love for nature, feel nature loving you back. And of course, what we are speaking of is really the expanded aspect of who you are. Because you are an aspect of the humanity being, and the humanity being is an aspect of the earth being. So, by extrapolation, you are an aspect of the earth being. And therefore, the earth, in its very multi-dimensional and complex understanding of energy, is providing an energetic cadence, an energetic supplement to you, such that you may be nourished and moved deeper into your ascension. So that when the time arrives and the earth does ascend, it ascends in a very complete way, which includes every aspect possible. And you are one of those aspects. So right now, the earth is providing you with an energetic supplementation that is perfectly attuned specifically to you. So, when you are loving nature, when you are loving the earth, which is the synonymous in meaning, then allow your appreciation that the earth is loving you back, that nature has something very special and dear for you because it perceives you as it perceives itself. You are it. It does not see you as separate. It sees you as an aspect of itself. And really feel the love the earth has for you. And this is going to harmonize you with the very specific energetic cadence which the earth is providing specifically to this aspect of itself, which is you. And eventually allow these energies, your love for the earth's love for you, to coincide and become the single energy. And this is you expanding into the understanding and the realization and the energetic set point that you are the earth. There is no separation. You literally are the earth. And so the earth's love for you is your love for you because you are the same being. And when you are in this state of very profound and deep love, invite your heart chakra to open fully. Because in this state of connected to the love of this expanded definition of self, the amount of love which is available to be poured into you is tremendous, is far more than you would ever need or even can contain in your current form as Lidia. So, this means that the heart chakra can open in the absence of any fears that this vulnerability will be left wanting because the love that is being provided is insufficient. And so while you're in this state of openness, where the heart chakra is fully dilated and being filled, the love of the earth, of this expanded definition of self, is flowing into the heart chakra in a very magnificent way. Open your eyes and look at the photos of the people that you love. And send to them, share with them, connect with them on a frequency of love that is coming from this expanded heart chakra. And do this in particular with your daughter with her partner, and with their child. And this is going to blanket them with an energetic quality which is going to soften them to the concept of who you are, and also to the contemplation of bringing you deeper into their lives so that you can be part of what they share together, of their family. And take on your role as the maternal grandmother of your grandchildren. Let us now look at this vision that you had, where you saw the earth being flooded with light, and then arising from that was the new earth. This is a message which is being telegraphed from the solar system being. This is its vision of the next harmonic, the next octaval existence of itself. So the ascension of you, the individual, is the ascension of the humanity being, which is the ascension of the earth being, which is the ascension of the sun. This is a shift in the entire being, because each of these increments of identity. So you are you, but then you are also the humanity being, which is also the earth being, which is also the solar system being. So any shift into a new density state is a shift of this larger organism. And by extrapolation, it is literally, when we take it to its ultimate definition, it is a shift in the entire being, the single being, the one. So, as this shift is going to be a shift of the solar system being, then the solar system being is communicating to all aspects of itself. It is the sharing of the sacred knowledge. It is the penetration of the intelligence of the solar system being into all aspects of itself. And this is something which some get and some do not. Because when you are the single being, as you see yourself in the mirror, you are still a group being, because you are comprised of the many trillions of cells which are your body. And each of these cells have an individual consciousness. And they contribute to the totality of you. So you, as you know yourself, are a group being. However, what is different between the group beingness that you know yourself as and the group beingness of the sun? Because everything in existence is a group being. This is the fractal nature of the all, because the one is the ultimate group being. Everything, every entity, every consciousness, everything is an aspect of the single being, and it is the ultimate group being. And as you are part of this group being, then you are included in this fractal nature, and that is why you have expanded definitions of self. You are a group being, which is part of a group being, which is part of a group being, which is part of a group being, in expanded increments. But the cells of your body have less free will. It is more of an inherent and innate understanding about what needs to be done. And this is because at the lower density states, if each cell of your body was given the amount of free will that you are given as Lidia the individual, then it would be chaos within. And the human body would not be able to function, because the individual you know yourself as in this incarnation does not yet have the capacity to exist as a single being when there is that much free will within the individual cells of self. The individual cells still do have free will, but the free will is with parameters. And when those parameters are exceeded, this is when you see things like the autoimmune diseases, cancer, and so on. Because there is chaos within, which is resulting from the larger being not being able to skillfully and coherently and congruently broadcast the energy and the intelligence for there to be internal harmony. However, the solar system being is much more sophisticated, is much older, is much more of a being of many-dimensional and multifaceted, multidimensional ways of simultaneously existing. Because you are an aspect of the solar system being, and then so is the entire planet of Neptune, an aspect of the solar system being, and so on. So you can see it is a much more complex being. And so its level of complexity at the density state in which it lives means that it has the capacity to still have harmony within self, to have coherency even when the individual aspects of itself residing within have a great deal of free will autonomy. Meaning that you can be aware of the intelligent signal being sent by the sun where others don't. Because the free will is so liberal that not all aspects of its expanded self will choose to hear the message, or will choose to be of a certain type of beingness, which makes the message available to them. Because you are on the path to expansion, you are very focused, and this is why you feel such a deep connection with the materials of the Course in Miracles, with Jesus Christ, the entity, and also with us and the channeling we do with Muz, is because you are very resonant with the path that you intended to be on when you came into this incarnation. You are moving into the light, and there are still some tribulations, still some things to be addressed, but you are in sincerity, in terms of sincerity, you are very committed. And this energetic expression that you have means that you are opening yourself up to the intelligence of the higher wisdoms. And this is the same as saying you are open to receiving information from many different available sources, including the expanded definition of self, which is the earth being, and which is also the solar system being, in regard to that message, why you saw the earth being flooded with light and then the new earth emerging. The channel also has seen this same vision. And you will find that those are very sincerely on the path. This is quite a common phenomenon. Many thousands of people within the earth human paradigm have also seen this same vision, because those are the ones through the free will paradigm that have opened up in their beingness to be receptive to this intelligent messaging coming from the expanded definitions of self. Regarding your struggles with weight, this is something that we feel there is not really much need to address deeply, other than to say, manage your weight to the degree that you remain healthy. because it is in a healthy temple that you can connect and commune more so with the spiritual aspects of self. When the body is in ailment, then it draws your mind into the body. And so if you have aches, if you have pains, if you have physical conditions which must be addressed because of your state of health, then this draws you into the tangible, into the physical, and takes you out of the spiritual. As you make this shift into the next phase of your existence, then this is going to be a shift out of the physical more so into the spiritual, into the non-physical aspects of self. And really what it is, it's a growing appreciation of these extra dimensions of self. But it is different, it is difficult to expand in this way if you are continually drawn back into the physical, into this smaller dimension of self. Because the pain, the discomfort is drawing you back into it. Therefore, controlling your weight should be a priority, not from the perspective of how you appear, but more so from the perspective of how well you are able to follow your spiritual journey. So, treat the body as the temple. It is the temple through which you commune with the extra dimensional aspects of self while in this incarnation. So it must be cared for appropriately. And the degradation of this device is accumulative. So, you do not wait until you have problems. Because when those problems arise, it is not because of what you did in the last 5 minutes, but rather is what you did in the last 5 years, 15 years, 50 years. So, even if your health now feels to be adequate, understand that there is still an accumulation of neglect taking place. And you can do something about it now rather than waiting until it becomes a manifested issue. And finally, let us just draw some of these pieces together in the final question which we are going to address, which is about what else it is that could be done to advance your spiritual journey so that you are on the path to ascension and heading in the direction which you intended when you were incarnated into the current life cycle which you know yourself as. This question has, in the most part, already been answered. And you can see how all of these things which have been discussed all connect. So your relationship with your daughter and her family, your connection with the Jesus Christ, your expansion and dilation of the heart chakra, and your holy respect for the temple which you have been blessed so that you can bring the spiritual, the higher aspect of self, into the physical experience and become a divine being walking the earth. So, in addition to those that we have just mentioned, we would say just continue with your investigation. Continue with your sincerity. Continue being drawn towards what feels resonant and important to you. Because your intuitive guidance from what we see is very accurate. You can be trusting of your intuition because you are perceiving your intuition in a clarified way. And this clarity is what has brought you to the Course in Miracles material, to Tina Spalding, to us, and has you here now listening to this transmission. Because you have been trusting that intuition. You have been trusting this higher self inspiration to do what it is that you have been doing. So continue to trust that and continue to follow this path which is unfurling before you. And we have given you plenty that you can take with you to unfurl ahead of you for some time into the future. We can see that you have shifted a lot from the person that you were 25 years ago, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 10 years ago. There has been a significant transformation, and this transformation has now broken you through to the next harmonic of your existence within this avatar. Where now you are poised to begin the journey of extra-dimensional expansion and becoming a being which overflows with the high resonating love of the expanded being, of your Creator, and of the heart of the Jesus Christ. Because it is all the same energy in varying degrees of intensity. And if you trust yourself and embrace this journey, then you will find that in the near future, maybe 2.5 years from now, that you will look back to who you are at this very moment with a great degree of self-admiration at how much more you have grown since now, and how your growth is accelerating. And you will find that your expansion is taking on an exponential quality. And we are very pleased to finish that way with the former secondary school math teacher. Thank you, Lydia. We hope that you find some insight in this which is helpful to you. And we wish you to know that we love you, and the Jesus Christ is always with you in harmony, in love, and can be called upon at any time. And this is a direct conveyance of the message that he wishes for you to hear in the final words of this transmission.